Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Manage and Investigate Risks session. My name is Nicole Chisworth, and I'm one of the pre-sale solutions consultants here at Bytes. And my focus at Bytes is around the Microsoft Security and Compliance Suite. So hopefully I will be able to give you more of an understanding of the compliance tools and features in the session today. So let's get started. In the last 6 months to a year, every compliance-related conversation that I have had has included at least one of the elements up on the screen. Either customers don't know where all their data sits, or they do, but they have no way of controlling what is sent externally. Everyone wants to secure data, meet GDPR, and manage their data more efficiently. And generally, all the customers are having same or similar challenges with remote workers, effectively controlling how they work, and also what endpoints they are using to do their work. I understand that compliance can have different meanings to various teams across the business, but essentially, it's the outcome of continuous risk management involving compliance, risk, legal, privacy, security, IT, and often even HR and finance teams. So it requires an integrated approach to manage the different risks. Starting with the base pillar, which is compliance management, this is all about simplifying your risk assessments and mitigations in a more automated way, but also providing visibility and insights to help you meet your compliance requirements. Information protection and governance is about helping you know your data better, protecting and governing your data through its life cycle. This is often the key starting point for many customers in their modern compliance journey, knowing what sensitive data they have, putting flexible and user-friendly policies in place for security and compliance, and also using a lot more intelligence and automation. Insider risk management is often what keeps a lot of business leaders up at night. Regardless of whether it's negligent or malicious, being able to identify and take action on internal risks is critical. The ability to quickly identify and manage risks from insiders, whether they're employees or contractors with corporate access, and minimize the negative impact on your compliance or your competitive position or your brand reputation is a big priority for organizations everywhere. Last but not least, discover and respond is about being able to discover relevant data for your internal investigations, for litigation, or regulatory requests, and respond to them efficiently, and doing so without having to use multiple solutions, moving data in and out of systems, which increases the risk to that data overall. Let's go a little bit deeper into these pillars. And starting off with information protection and governance. So any vendor worth their salt should provide solutions that enable you to protect and govern your data throughout its entire life cycle, wherever it lives or wherever it travels. The growth of data that's blurring our traditional organizational boundaries and, with more people working remotely has made protecting and governing that important data more challenging than ever. Data is created and stored and shared across many locations like our devices, apps, cloud services, and on-prem infrastructure. And the evolving compliance landscape to manage all of that is adding to this complexity. The Microsoft solutions are aiming to give customers the flexibility to implement the necessary controls to meet those compliance regulations or requirements. Knowing your data, protecting your data, governing your data are all outcomes that they have, tried to incorporate in their different features and solutions. This includes a common approach to data classification, no matter where the data resides, a unified policy configuration across the entire M365 suite of products and across your infrastructure to simplify the management experience for your IT teams as well, dashboards to monitor and remediate some of these issues, APIs that enable you to extend your policies to services outside of M365 as well, and more on that later. So they've put in a lot of work to try and give you a unified picture to manage your data throughout its life cycle. And first of those features is Microsoft Information Protection, or what used to be called Azure Information Protection. Effectively, this feature or solution is Microsoft's version of data classification. It comes in two flavors depending on which license you have. It's either in plan 1 or plan 2. And effectively, it gives you the ability to create and define labels to assign to your data. So things like highly confidential or top secret. Once you have those labels, you can have sensitive information types like GDPR, PII, NIST, PCI DSS, for example. Protection applies a policy based on the label that you've created. So you can either watermark or prevent data from being sent out externally. And also encryption makes sure that that document, that data is sent and stored securely, only giving access to the right people. Applying the labels and policies can either be manual, so users have to assign a label themselves, which could require time to adopt and train, or it could be automatic, which requires a scanner to scan through your documents, detect what is in those documents, and automatically assign a label to them. That is the Plan 2 feature of this particular product. So just to be conscious of the licensing restrictions. DLP for Teams, something we've adopted as well, can be quickly deployed to automatically block messages that contain sensitive information. While they block, they also help educate users to protect data and show them what kind of data is sensitive. So using the labels and policies that you would have created, you can apply them and extend them to your Teams channels and chats as well. Again, there's a particular license that you need to be able to have to be able to use DLP specifically for Teams. So just be conscious of that if you're considering this particular feature. Information governance and records management gives you the ability to retain data and manage records based on policies that you set. And this includes Facebook and Twitter for Business if you've integrated those applications into M365. With these tools, you can then demonstrate compliance with things like proof of disposal and audit trails on that data. Microsoft have now added data connectors so that you can extend your compliance policies to systems outside of MS. It's not every single possible data connector out there, but there's a list of quite prominent ones that have been added to the feature. So that's quite useful to see and work through. The next pillar is insider risk management. And like I said, you know, they often keep our business leaders up at night. But what Microsoft have done to try and cover this broad range of risk and violations is incorporate a feature tool specifically to address this. You know, it's hard to maintain trust without the right visibility, processes, and control. However, the effort required to identify these risks and violations is not trivial. If we think about the number of people accessing resources, communicating with each other, the nature of people entering and leaving a company, how do you intelligently determine what is intentional or what is unintentional in terms of risks to your business? And how do you achieve the level of visibility while still aligning to legal, privacy, and cultural requirements that you operate in? For example, truly malicious insiders do things such as intentionally stealing your IP or turning off security controls or harassing other people at work. But there are many more situations in which an insider might not even know that they're causing a risk to the organization or violating a policy. Like when they're excited about something new they're working on and send files or photos to tell their friends about it. So insider risk management leverages Microsoft Graph and other services to obtain signals from Office, Windows, and Azure. And these signals include file activity, communications, sentiment, abnormal user behaviors. And additionally, third-party signals from HR systems that can be integrated at an API level into the M365 suite. So they're built in configurable playbooks like that are tailored specifically for things like digital IP theft, confidentiality breaches, potential security violations. And these playbooks are all using things like machine learning and intelligence to correlate all of the signals they collect to identify patterns and risks that a traditional or manual method might miss. Using intelligence and correlation allows the solution to focus on actual suspicious activity so you don't get overloaded with alerts. Furthermore, uh, you can just you can hide the particular users' names to pseudonymize them by default, and that is to mainly maintain privacy and prevent bias. So potentially, maybe just your HR team can see who exactly has been behaving in a certain way. Insider risk management also provides quite a comprehensive view that's easy to understand. The summaries are pretty straightforward, and you can see individual risks within your organization with those specific users. It includes a historical timeline of relevant activities and trends associated with each identified user as well. So for example, you could see if a user submitted their resignation, downloaded some files, and copied some of them to a USB, for example. Finally, the integrated workflows built into insider risk management ensure that the right people across security, HR, legal, compliance are involved to investigate and take action once a risk has been identified. So if the risk was determined to be unintentional, you could send an email saying, this is a violation of company policy with a link to training or handbook. Or if the risk was determined to be malicious, you could open an investigation within insider risk management that would collate and preserve all of the evidence collected, including the documents, and open a case for legal and HR to take the appropriate actions. Similar to insider risk is a relatively new feature called communications compliance. And this helps businesses address code of conduct policy violations in your communications or in how people are communicating with each other. This is particularly helpful to organizations that are regulated and have to meet specific supervisory compliance requirements. So communications compliance supports a number of different channels. This includes Exchange, Teams, Skype, Twitter, Facebook, and Bloomberg Instant Messages, for example. And what it does is it's providing granularity in identifying specific words and phrases with out-of-the-box models built into it to identify things like harassment, people using profanities, or identifying threats. You can also build your own trainable classifiers that understand meaning and context that are unique to your organization's needs, such as insider trading or what you consider to be unethical practice. Once a violation has been flagged and the designated supervisor is alerted, it's important that the review process enables them to effectively act on those violations. So communications compliance includes things like historical user context on past violations, conversation threading, keyword highlighting, which together allow a supervisor to quickly triage the violation and take appropriate remediation actions. The dashboards provide an effective way to manage those communications risk and to ensure any violations are not missed. But there's also proactive alerting on those violations to try and get immediate attention of a supervisor, for example, so that they can prioritize and focus on the critical violations first. In addition, violations, actions, and trends by policy provide a quick view of the effectiveness of your program as well. The next pillar, discovery and respond. So to continue to meet legal and business regulatory compliance challenges, business must be able to keep and protect important information and quickly find what's relevant. spending days, if not weeks, manually sifting through millions of files to find the small number that are relevant isn't just expensive, but it's just not an option. So we also know that in conjunction with that, data is exploding. This poses serious challenges for customers in a world where internal requirements, pressures from legal and regulatory compliance are evolving and changing and becoming more complex. Customers are asking for the capabilities that can efficiently manage their risk and compliance. It's a challenge that everyone is facing. But one challenge in particular is the ability to discover data efficiently and cost effectively as well. So not only is data growing exponentially, which increases the risk, complexity, and cost of finding the data quickly, the type of data is also evolving. So more users are now using chat-based workspaces to communicate and collaborate. If you think back just 5 years ago, how would you have been able to search through Exchange and SharePoint, collect all the data in one place, save all the data in one place, and export it in one place? It just wasn't possible, and it was quite painful. Now with e-discovery, the data in the various M365 workloads, as well as non-Microsoft 365 data that you ingest, are indexed in place, allowing internal searches to be performed without any movement of data or requiring additional time to prepare the data to be searched. The in-place review tools and analytics that are available in e-discovery help you to further reduce data volumes and prepare the data for attorney review if necessary in a well-organized manner, and only truly unique data being moved to a review platform. In addition to the efficiency and cost savings, the reduction of risk cannot be understated here. The in-place culling and reduction of data helps to keep sensitive and private data within the tenant and not having additional copies sent to vendors unless absolutely necessary. Advanced e-discovery enables you to quickly find that relevant data and respond efficiently. Over and above e-discovery, advanced e-discovery gives you custodian management. There's no complex scripting to identify SharePoint URLs and mailboxes. Now you just tell Microsoft who or what in the background, who or what you want to search for, and in the background, it maps and collates that content for you. Deep indexing, this is about how quickly the search runs. So when you run a search, it's tuned for performance. Ingested data is indexed as it is ingested into M365. I've seen these searches work and they're really, really quick. And you can review and manage the data and redact data as and when necessary. All this while, machine learning is removing duplicates in the background, identifying the content and potentially high value content, and collating all of that in one place. I mean, extremely powerful, one of my favorites. Last but not least is the compliance management pillar. And this is about simplifying it and reducing your risk. Now, when customers leverage their on-premise IT estate, they have complete responsibility to protect the data and to implement the controls necessary to be compliant with regulatory standards. But when you move into cloud services, that burden is lessened, sometimes considerably, because you now have a cloud service provider and there's a shared responsibility model between the two. When it comes to the data itself, however, the classification and accountability of that data is entirely our responsibility and not on the cloud services provider. And that includes the backup of that data as well. So it's very important for us to realize that data classification and accountability sits with us. And to complement all of that around the compliance management of all of this data is Microsoft's compliance manager and compliance score. So what they're doing is trying to help simplify compliance and risk management. So it's making it easy for IT admins and compliance stakeholders to help the compliance, to ensure their compliance requirements are met and can be managed and controlled. So even if you're not an expert in something like GDPR, you can still quickly learn the actions that are recommended to help you progress towards being GDPR compliant. With Microsoft Compliance Score, you can now continuously assess and monitor data protection controls, get clear mapping and guidance on how to improve your score to reduce those compliance risks, and also to scale your compliance effort across global, industrial, and regional standards. So Compliance Score can scan through your M365 environment and detect your system settings continuously and automatically, and then update your score accordingly. So if you configure a setting that's improving or not so much improving your score adjusts and adapts to show the changes that you have made. It can detect that setting and then reflect that in the control details. Conversely, like I said, if you've not created a policy, that will be flagged in your compliance score and the recommended action for you to take. These ongoing control assessments, they're happening in the background, but what they do is help you proactively maintain compliance instead of reactively fixing things after a particular audit. It also provides you with those improvement actions, like I mentioned, in different areas. So it's not just in compliance, but information protection, information governance, even in how you manage your devices. So this easily helps you understand the contribution you're making towards your overall compliance. And each recommended action has a different impact as well, depending on the risk involved for that action that you take within M365. So risk managers and compliance professionals can assess all of these controls with the built-in assessments. And the built-in assessments include GDPR, ISO 27001, for example. But there is a compliance add-on that it comes at an additional cost with the premium templates, which include the compliance standards for all of the other countries in the world. And Cyber Essentials as well as part of the premium templates, which is unfortunate, but there is an add-on to include that, to incorporate that into your compliance objectives. It also effectively helps you make connections between each of your regulatory compliant requirements and the solutions that can help you enhance those controls, thus increasing your overall score. It's constantly getting updated from the different bodies around the world. And, there's more than 220 updates I saw from these different bodies that have happened since it was launched. So it's constantly evolving, which is why you need a tool that can adapt to that evolution, so to speak. It helps you scale your compliance program as well across global, industrial, and regional regulations, as I mentioned, and standards. And that's also built into the capabilities of Microsoft Compliance Score. So this is one of the key features to have an overall look at your compliance posture with M365 and to try and simplify that risk. It's available in all of the M365 enterprise plans as well, even at a basic level. So certainly have a look. But yes, that brings me full circle to the 4 pillars that are available within the Microsoft suite of products. So how Bytes can help. We do have funded compliance workshops available if you meet the criteria from Microsoft. And these go into a lot more detail over a couple of days around how you can adopt some of these technologies and how you can actually implement them in your environment. I regularly have compliance overview sessions with customers as well to talk through the different features. Unfortunately, I can't demo as well today because I only have a limited amount of time with you. But if you wanted to talk through some of the different compliance features and have a look at demos, you can certainly reach out to your account manager. Fast Track is also there to help you adopt some of these technologies as well. But as I mentioned with the licensing, it's complicated, kind of, but we have licensing specialists in-house just to make sure you have the right licenses. And because they've dispersed a lot of these features in different SKUs, it's important to keep a track of that. I will uh, make sure I check the chat boxes for the event and answer any of the questions that you have, but please do reach out if you do have any more questions. We're happy to help and chat with you further. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.